Planet CHH is full of
You are about to enter a new dimension in television, a dimension of 3D sight, sound, and space.
Christian over at Planet CHH just did a video of the best horror movies of the 1990s, 1 year at a time basically. And at the end of the video, he says if you're a YouTuber, go out and make your own video. And I thought, I'll do that. I'll make my own video. What a great idea. Thanks for the content. And how I approach this really is more like, if somebody had never seen a horror movie in the 90s, what would I show them to really get the point across of that year? What would I show them to really drive home what that year is reminiscent of, or like what I think would really speak to that year in horror? Now, this is way harder than it sounds. On paper, you're like, yeah, that's a good movie, or that's not a good movie. I don't know why you'd pick that. But like when you're actually trying to make this list, it's not as easy as I think it is. So for 1990, I struggled. It's tough because you want to say Misery, right? I mean, how can you not pick Misery as the best horror movie of 1990? But for me personally, it has to be Jacob's Ladder. This is such a great movie. It's one of my favorites of the 90s. I come back to this movie all the time. It's got a great story. It inspired Silent Hill heavily. Inspired a lot of movies in the same vein, video games and stuff like that. It really set itself apart as something new and fresh and a really honestly terrifying nightmare of a movie. I think anybody would agree that it belongs, if not at the top, then definitely in the top 3 of 1990. I mean, The Exorcist 3 would be the other one, and I really struggled with that as well, because The Exorcist 3 is also one of my favorite movies of all time, let alone of the 90s. While it was hard not to say Exorcist 3 and it was hard not to say Misery, I have to pick Jacob's Ladder as my movie of 1990. Now, moving on to 1991, I'm not going to do the obvious. As much as I want to, I'm not going to do the obvious. And we all know what the obvious is.
How you burn?
And that's Silence of the Lambs. Some people would argue it's not a horror movie. I say it is definitely a horror movie. Because it's so obvious, I thought I'd go with something a little bit different, and I'm going to pick People Under the Stairs. This is one of Wes Craven's best movies, in my opinion. It has so much going for it. The social commentary is strong. The scares are strong. The cast is strong. It's just a really well put together movie, and it's a really interesting take on a haunted house. It's a movie that has something to say and isn't afraid to do it, but it's also not afraid to stand on its own. It's just a great horror movie.
Wes Craven's The People Under the Stairs.
So while obviously Silence of the Lambs would be the pick if you want to really get down to brass tacks, I think People Under the Stairs is a great choice, and that's what I would show to somebody if they wanted to see a movie from 1991. Now, 1992 wasn't easy either. Now, maybe you'd think Army of Darkness, but Army of Darkness isn't even my favorite Evil Dead movie. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a great movie. It's just not really my cup of tea. So that didn't make the cut. So it really came down to Candyman or Dead Alive. My brain told me Candyman, but my heart told me Dead Alive. It has to be Dead Alive. Peter Jackson, the most gory movie you'll ever see. That's not a joke. When they use that as a tagline, it's not a joke. It's a bloodbath. In the greatest way possible. I mean, I kick ass for the Lord. So many great lines, so many amazing kills, just completely bonkers, off the wall, insanity the entire movie. I mean, without Dead Alive, we wouldn't have Lord of the Rings, we wouldn't have The Hobbit. I shudder at the thought. I mean, Peter Jackson, I would love him to just make a new horror movie. That would be incredible. I mean, I would love like a brain dead, Dead Alive, Bad Taste like movie in the modern day. It would be incredible with Peter Jackson. He could do anything he wants. He's Peter Jackson. I think that would be awesome. Now, I don't know if we're ever going to get it, but the point is, Brain Dead, Dead Alive has to be my pick for 1992. 1993 really wasn't much of a challenge for me, and there really wasn't a ton of great horror out that year. And that might be obvious with my pick, which is Leprechaun. Now, personally, I love Leprechaun. I think it's a blast. It's not my favorite Leprechaun movie. I think Leprechaun 3 is the best when he goes to Vegas. But I think it's a fun movie. I mean, it doesn't take itself seriously at all. It has Jennifer Aniston, who probably wants this movie buried in a landfill somewhere. Probably doesn't even remember making it.
This movie is the bane of your existence. You decided to do the movie Leprechaun, and you
Yes,
hate that.
I really thought I'd arrived when I did Leprechaun. I mean, it was with Warwick
Right.
Davis, the guy from Willow, was in it.
That's a big deal.
Big deal.
Yeah. But you cringe when you don't see it on TV, or you would never go back and watch it.
I mean, it's Leprechaun. What can you say about Leprechaun? It's Warwick Davis running around in candy cane colored stockings and being a goofball. So 1993 has to go to Leprechaun. Sorry, not sorry. I personally love it. I think I'd have to show it to somebody if they'd never seen a horror movie from 1993. 1994, another tough year. Now this one, part of me said New Nightmare, but ultimately it wasn't really a question. In the Mouth of Madness is my pick for 1994. I'm a sucker for cosmic horror, nightmarish kind of dream logic-y movies, and this is just right up my alley. I mean, I think it's a wonderfully written and shot film. I think John Carpenter really hit it out of the park with it. I think it's a great movie. I mean, you have Sam Neill doing his Sam Neill, going crazy. Some of the shots in it are just so nightmarish, like the bike scene where that kid's coming by and then you see him come by again. The whole drive into the town. And especially towards the end of the movie where things start to come off the rails a little bit, it's just a great cosmic horror movie. And unfortunately, we still don't have a 4K. I would imagine Scream Factory has that in the pipeline. I'd love to see a 4K of this movie come out, but yeah, I mean, you got to throw some John Carpenter in there somewhere. Personally, I think it's his best movie of the 90s, and it's just a great cosmic horror movie that I would have to show somebody in 1994. So 1994, my pick is definitely In the Mouth of Madness. 1995, we're in the middle of the decade, and this one, without a doubt for me, is Tales from the Crypt Demon Knight. This movie has everything you want in a horror movie, especially one in the 90s, where practical effects are starting to make their way out and CGI is starting to come in. This movie has incredible effects. It's got everything from an EC comic mashed together with Evil Dead 2, the perfect blend of everything, really. And you can't go wrong with it. There's so many great lines, so many amazing actors in it, so many great moments.
What is this cowboy shit? You fucking ho dunk, po dunk, well then there, motherfuckers!
It's just a complete gonzo horror masterpiece. If you haven't seen it, definitely go watch it. It's one of those movies that you'll never forget. And while there's other movies in this year that you could have contended with it for sure, I think Demon Knight just does all of the things that those movies do in one. It's everything you want, really. So 1995, Demon Knight for sure. 1996. As much as I'd love to be a contrarian here, it's gotta be Scream. There's no denying it, there's no getting around it, even within all of the horror of the 90s.
You like scary movies?
Uh-huh.
What's your favorite scary movie?
I don't know.
You have to have a favorite. What comes to mind?
How you burn?
It's arguably the best horror movie of the 90s. And arguably is the key word there. There's lots I can say about the sequels, but as far as 1996 goes, there's really nothing to compare it to. So as much as I'd love to say something else, I can't. And I'm not going to pretend that it's not the greatest movie of 1996 or even the 90s. So 1996 goes to Scream. Now I know in Christian's video he said 1992 was the hardest year for him, but Planet CHH is full of baloney. 1997 was way harder than 1992. Funny Games, Cube, Wishmaster, Leprechaun 4 in space.
He's back. Ready for romance.
She loves me.
I mean, the list goes on. 1997 was a great year for horror, and it's really hard to pick just one. So when I came to 1997, I tried my best to narrow it down, and it really was a toss-up between a few movies, but in the end, Sam Neill's coming back, baby. It's Event Horizon. This movie inspired Dead Space. It has such a great gothic cathedral feel in the spaceship. Everything's just so dark and dismal and apocalyptic, which makes sense in the movie, but why would you build a spaceship like that? That's insane. And the movie's insane. I mean, Lawrence Fishburne has that classic line in it.
We're leaving.
Sam Neill's going crazy as usual. It's basically Hellraiser in space, Cenobites in space. It's a great movie. After I decided to go with it, I feel like this was the right choice. Go watch Event Horizon. I mean, 1997, it's got to be Event Horizon. 1998, Blade. Blade. It's Blade. You got Wesley Snipes acting like a motherfucking badass running around. That opening nightclub scene alone. The bloodbath, the intensity, the whole story is great. I've never read the comics, but I mean, it sounds like something that'd be right up my alley. It's an amazing action-packed, blood-soaked vampire film with Wesley Snipes. What more can you ask for? It's totally violent and crazy and just intense from moment one. I know this used to be a comic. I don't know how closely it follows the source material, but from everything I can tell from people who've read the comics and who are into comics, this is one of the best comic movies of the 90s. So yeah, 1998 goes to Blade. And now we're down to the last year of the 90s, 1999. Turn of the century, and this is where things really got tough for me because it really came down to two movies, The Blair Witch Project and The Sixth Sense. I thought about this long and hard, and I decided to go with The Sixth Sense. It's really more of a slow burn kind of supernatural movie, but I mean, this is arguably M. Night's best work, and I think it's a really strong, solid movie. Say what you want about plot twists and this and that.
Can I tell you a secret?
Sure, man.
I see dead people.
Man, this shit is awesome.
Yo, son, you gotta roll some more of that shit outside.
We don't have any more capers, man.
I think it's a really great horror movie, and you might be thinking, well, that's a horror movie for normies. It doesn't mean it's not a good movie. I think it's a great film, and yeah, it's gotta be my pick for 1999. As much as I'd love to say Blair Witch, it's gotta be Sixth Sense. So there you go, guys. That's my whole 90s pick. Like I said, I went back and forth on some of these. It really was harder than it seems. So let me know what you would pick down below. What's your list look like if you're a YouTuber? I'm going to put that call to action out there just like Christian did. Go make your own video. Or if you're not a YouTuber, there you go. Make your first video. Perfect outline right there. Your top 90s horror movies. In the meantime, check out this video right here where I talk about another 90s horror hidden gem that is completely off the walls. I'll see you guys next time. Bye. A massive thank you to my Patreon supporters. If you would like to support this channel, you can find those links in the description. Bye bye.